Hey guys, I want to create some video content here, share some thoughts with you. In fact, I had one right now. So I just got off a call with an inventor. I've been working on a prototype for years, ended up getting a full-on patent for it. Really did some serious effort putting this thing together. I mean, it's great. And one thing I had a question about was, will people buy this? Is this something that others would want to pay for? And as I started diving into that conversation, I kept meeting resistance. It seems that, and I see this a lot, that there are many inventors who believe their idea is just going to be successful. And you look at an idea, you see it, even a prototype, and I commend people for having prototypes. That's amazing. Hell, I make a lot of prototypes here. I've got all the materials. I mess around with a lot of things. I make prototypes all the time. And that's a great way of getting something in physical form to play with, to make sure it works. But another reason you would want to make a prototype is so that you can get it in the hands of your customers and start getting feedback on, is this something someone would pay money for? Because at the end of the day, when you want to tie your idea to profits, you're going to have to make sure there's enough people to transact with first. Even before you go into manufacturing, even before you go into all these, the marketing, all that, there are ways of testing whether an idea has merit or not by doing, for instance, surveys. We do a lot of surveys here. Surveys are great because we can go and make a video and demonstrate it to hundreds of people fairly inexpensively these days, just to gather some feedback. If we see that not enough people are willing to buy it, that generally doesn't bode well, or at least will enough people have some type of interest for it, at least interest. Let's start off with that. But then we'll start asking questions like, will you pay said price? We want to make sure that we're willing to pay the price that not only captures your cost of goods, but also captures a reasonable profit margin. And then, is this something they'll buy today, tomorrow, next week? We want to get a sense of their urgency. And so because of that, that really siphons out some risk when it comes to making decisions on whether, let's say we wanted to invest in something. Well, we don't just throw money at anything. We want to test it, see if it has merit, see if enough consumers or customers or the people you're going to be serving, see if there's enough of those people who can see the value in the product and open up their checkbook. That's as simple as it gets. So what I wanted to leave you with today is, if you have come really far, maybe even a patent, maybe a prototype, which I commend you for, you're still not at the end of the road. I commend you for having built stuff, and I can't stress that enough. That's amazing. But you've got to test it in the real world. Like even now, I've got a setup where I can do a lot of stuff. I can build a lot of things. But if I don't get out of the building, if I don't go out and start gathering feedback and getting this in the field and seeing people use it and seeing just try to test it, test. Because if you don't do that, you run the risk of working on a product for years. And I kid you not, some of these guys, they'd be working on it for 5, 10. I just spoke with a guy who'd been working on a product for 20 years. That's a hell of a commitment. So what we want to do is figure out, okay, how can we, as soon as possible, determine, is there a market for this? The sooner we get to that question, the sooner we get answers to that question, the better you'll be as far as negotiating with investors or pitching to companies for licensing. You're going to need something. You need more evidence as to why it's worth the risk. Especially if you wanted to develop something really big, like a new camera system or some electronic device or robotic device. That's going to take progressively more capital. Especially if you want to build your own brand, it's going to take progressively more capital, and that steadily ramps up that risk factor. So the more you can validate the market, the more you can show hungry customers willing to buy this product, the easier those discussions will be with whoever it is you're trying to negotiate with. So I wanted to leave this message with you. If you have a prototype, if you have a patent, hell, if you don't have any of that, there are ways of testing an idea way before. Hell, we actually, we'll test an idea just in its idea form. We may not even actually build it. It could even be a rendering. It could even be, it gets questionable though, and I want to share this thought. It gets questionable when you're uncertain whether the product will work. That's when that's another reason a prototype makes sense. If you're uncertain that this either functions like it should, or is comfortable, or is as easily collapsible, or is not as complicated, you want to build something just to answer those questions. But if you know for sure that your product will work, let's say you're taking some existing technology and bringing it together in a new way, then there's nothing wrong with creating renderings. There's nothing wrong with creating animations that show the idea in 3D form. May not be physical. That's when that makes sense. So I would say always start mentally with, will this sell? And you may be an expert in your field. Let's say you're an electrician or something, and you have an idea for electrician, a tool. Well, that gives you clout, that gives you some authority in that space, but it certainly doesn't give you the crystal ball that you need to see if there's enough people like you in the world that would be willing to use that tool. So we respect expertise, but at the end of the day, no matter how you break it down, I don't have a crystal ball. You might, but it's unlikely. So let's figure out, how do you test an idea? There are a lot of clever ways to do that. So I just want to leave this message with you guys. Thank you.